Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of the Rugby League Roundtable. We are joined as always by CEO Tony Mestrov, Coach Shane Flanagan, player Aaron Woods and journalist Brent Reid. I had to think about what to call you then.
Yeah.
Hack. We're talking one of the most requested topics today from our viewers and our listeners, and that is player agents. Flano, I'm going to come to you.
Thanks.
What is it like dealing with these people that we hear names banded around? Some of them get some press, some of them don't. What's it like dealing with a player agent?
Well, for me, it's like just part of the job. You know, I've done it for a long period of time now, so you know what you got to know what you got to deal with. You know, some of them can be tricky, but you know that's their job. And you know, obviously, I've been a little bit on both sides of the thing. I did some recruitment for the Dragons there a couple of years back, and they're just out there trying to do the best for their clients, which that's what you want them to do. But you've got to understand that some of them are a little bit different, you know, and a little bit tricky, and they've all got their agendas and they've all got connections within the game, as we know. As we know. Mr. Reid has got a couple on speed dial.
Oh, please.
So we've just got to be careful. But, you know, as I said, they're, I wouldn't say a necessary evil, but they're just a part of the game that you have to have.
Tony, what's it like to deal with the player agents?
Yeah, it's sometimes difficult. I think, you know, we understand their job is to do the best for their client. And I think sometimes they step over the mark on that. And all that's doing is trying to get benefit for their other clients as well. They sometimes do that, which upsets clubs.
Well, if that's the case, then they're not acting in the best interest of their client.
Yeah, it does need to be cleaned up. I've got, you know, as I've probably said before, I'm on a working group with the NRL. We're going to change the accreditation scheme and stiffen that up a bit. And it does need stiffening up. There's, you know, we see many, I think, incidents where there's, you know, players connected to each other, let me put it that way, which I don't think is good for anyone. So I just think it needs tightening up. It's happened for a long time. I was actually an agent for about 4 years. I was part of a company called Pivot Sport.
Wow.
And then Singo was part of an STW group. Chris White from International Quarterback, and he'd been there for years, and Singo, part of the Singo group. So I got a bit of an insight into what it was like. And the more established agents, it was pretty difficult to compete with them. They've been there for a long time. But look, I think it just needs cleaning up. I think, you know, no one likes to see players, you know, sign the year before, or names bandied around, or clubs don't want to see leaking, which managers do, to Reedy, another journalist. Not you specifically, Reedy. I like you, Reedy. But I think that really pisses clubs off. And look, you know, there's trust issues amongst the players, like who's telling the press and so on. So it can break that down. So there's a bit of work to do, I feel, to clean it up.
James, it's interesting. I listen to Mezzy talk. The clubs can help each other in this space, and I obviously got a good relationship with the Manly recruitment officer. So, you know, I can ring him and say, hey, listen, I've heard you offered Aaron Woods $500,000, you know, just using him as an example. And is that the case? And he would be honest with me. Like, and go, hey, mate, we're not anywhere near that, or we are, yeah, we're in for him. They don't have to give the exact detail to it, but, yeah, we're in for Aaron Woods. Or, you know, I'm quite happy to say, hey, listen, we're going to go after one of your players. You know, that's just the way it is.
That's
like
usual.
Messi can't get his knickers in a knot.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we'll just be up front. Like, are you in for Tolu Kola? Are you in for, you know, Olakawati?
He's one of your favourites, Tolu.
Because he can run and he's fast.
Do you find that they lie a lot, though?
Who's that, managers?
Yeah.
I don't think they lie. They just, as I said, they just got to... They're negotiating with 2 or 3 clubs. So, you know, they might, you know, bend the truth a little bit. But, you know, they're just doing their job for both clubs. And, you know, as I said, I get on well with a lot of them. And as I said, they're out there doing their job. You know, sometimes, yeah, hey, mate, you're taking the piss here, you know, we can't get there. That's fine. Don't let them walk away.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't like it.
That's the art of negotiating, isn't it, I guess. Tony, you said about cleaning things up. What specifically needs to be cleaned up in this space?
I just think it's messy. I think it looks messy when you got a whole lot of players that are contracted. There's rumours they're going. It's just not good for the fans, the game, and so on. I just think, like I've said before, I think it needs to be more formulated with a draft. I'd like to see that or the transfer window, as you said, because at least it puts 2 periods there.
Yeah.
It's just messy, and I think part of it is managing coaches as well. I think that that's a conflict, and I know that the NRL has spoken about cleaning that up, which is a good thing. I think that'd help.
Why November 1, James? Like, before we've even started 2025, players are free to go and negotiate for number 1. Why don't we just wait till mid-year, June 30? We used to be. Wait till June 30. So, people talk about fans of the game and everything, and we're talking about players moving in 2 or 3 weeks on.
So who's come up with that rule? That's the NRL.
That's the NRL. Oh, and the Players' Union as well.
Yeah.
But that's not to me, that's not an agent issue, right? The agent's just working within the parameters that they're given. I think most agents in the game do a really good job. And if you're worried about people lying to you, rugby league's not the game for you, right? Because it doesn't matter. Everyone in this game occasionally tells you pull pie because sometimes they have to. And it might be an agent, it might be someone in club land. That's just life, right?
Yep.
You just got to be able to double check and triple check everything before you run with it because, if you're worried about people lying to you, as I said, you're in the wrong game.
Really, you as a journalist, how much call time are you on with player agents?
I'd speak to people in clubland more than agents. I speak to most agents in the game. I think all journos do.
Why?
Because they control the fate of a hell of a lot of players, Jimmy. And you know what people love reading about? Player movement. People love it.
Yeah.
People love reading about contracts. They love reading about their club being interested in a player. So, we might hear a whisper around the traps that, say, Flano's after, let's just throw a name out there, Clint Gutherson, right? So we want to check that, see if it's true. So we might ring Flano, we might ring the Dragons, we might ring his agent. And that's how you get to the truth, Jimmy, even though along the way, maybe you get told a couple of lies.
So why, as a player agent, would I tell you that my client is potentially moving clubs? There's got to be a bit of return. There's something needed though. Like it's a trade of information, or is it just?
Well, they might.
Why would
I might speak to an agent and they'll say, "What have you heard about?" Again, I'll throw the name out, Clint Gutherson, because maybe I've spoken to some other agents or some other clubs, and I could say, "Well, maybe I've heard this. I don't know if it's true." Blah blah blah. But there's an exchange of information with clubs, exchange of information with players. That's what journos do, right? We trade in information.
It's a benefit for the agent to get it out there. I mean, it's going to get a higher price for their client, and that's why they do get it. Now, look, to answer Reedy's question as well, like the clubs are a little bit boring. I mean, we're not tipping in Reedy all the time, but the agents have got, more stories. So I get why they do it.
Clubs are happy to tip you in other clubs, just not their own club.
Yeah, correct. Spot on, Reedy. Thank you.
Tony, you mentioned about this cleaning house where the conflict of interest of players being managed and coaches being managed by the same agent. How could that possibly be fixed?
Look, I think it has to be grandfathered. I think that part of the working group, I know that the NRL has spoken about it publicly.
They've been talking about this for so long.
Yeah, I know.
Funny.
But the problem is, I mean, I can see the issue is it's got to be grandfathered, right? Because if you sign a client, obviously that agreement.
What does grandfathered mean?
Over time.
Yeah, over time you can phase it out as such. Like say, Flato's got a 3-year contract with his agent. You got to obviously wait till the end of that period, as I imagine it would happen. So I just think it'd really clean it up. I think, there's different instances where it is conflicted. That's my feeling.
Mezzy, why do you think it will clean it up? Like, because, obviously I've got a manager and he's got a lot of players and he manages your coach as well.
He does.
So how does that impact the club?
I just think this is not because of my situation. I just think as an overall situation, no matter what, that, various agents, but say you've got an agent and he's got various players, he's going to try and get his players into your club. It's as simple as that. It's human nature. He's going to try and get it into your club rather than another club. And I've seen it at other clubs, and club I was particularly at. There's an agent that was there, and they're putting a lot of players
That's
in.
poor management from the club, isn't it?
I agree with that as well, but I think it doesn't help sometimes. Look,
The club's the one that they sign off on the end.
Yeah.
So they can only get, the coach can say, I can get this player here, but doesn't at the end of the day, the club's got to sign off on it as well.
They do as well. So the club still has to control it, Woodsy, and we control, like Isaac Moses, we've been public around how many players of his we've signed. And that's been honest. Like, we've just been honest. Everyone goes, why did you do that? And because we just want to be honest, there was so much noise about, we're Isaac Moses run club and all this kind of stuff. I get on well with Isaac. He obviously manages Siebes, and it was not an issue. So we thought we'd go public with it, and why not be transparent?
Do you feel like a player agent can sort of look to control a club? And is it true that they would ever threaten a club saying, if you don't sign this player, then I will move this player from you? Like, can an agent have that power?
Well, it hasn't happened in my time, and no agent's got that power at Manly. I can safely say that. So, I hear it happens at other clubs, but I've never been privy to it. I don't know if you've.
I haven't.
So I haven't been privy to it.
I love it. It's the best.
Smiling.
I just hear it all the time because I've been at Manly, and obviously I'm under Isaac as well. So I thought it was funny when they come out with the statement with how many players Isaac's got, but then I looked at the roster. We had more Mario Tartak players at the same time.
Yeah.
But there was nothing was said about that. It's just that Isaac's a powerful man in rugby league, and a lot of people want to bring him down. It's hilarious.
Why do you think that is? Why do people want to bring him down?
Well, because he controls a lot of the great players in the game. He's got a lot of coaches, and a lot of people don't want managers coaching players and managing players and coaches.
Like, do you think if the player agent was sat here at the table, they'd be like, well, look, they would defend themselves and say, look, I am just doing the best job for my client.
Well, Jimmy, that's the thing, right? The agent's job doesn't always, it's basically in conflict what a club's job is, because the club's trying to keep prices down of players, and the agent's job is to get as much money as they possibly can out of a football club. So they're in conflict, right? And the way you get more money out of a football club is you go to other clubs and you say, this bloke's coming off contract, what can you offer him? And then they go back to you and he gets $1 million from here. He goes back to his original club and says, I've got $1 million from here, right? That's their job.
I get that, Rudy, but like all you're saying is the agent's got to work with the club more. Like, you might win some, lose some. They want to win everyone. You can't do that.
Yeah, but the clubs want to win everyone too, mate.
No, but I don't. I don't know. I don't know. But look, you can't win everyone.
No, you can't.
Be like, we'll win one here, then we'll lose one there. And you've got to work together with them. And that's all you want, them to work with the club.
Well, I got accused of, when one of them didn't sign with us, of hanging up on a player manager.
That's true. You did
Yes,
too,
a couple
didn't
of
you?
weeks ago.
Yeah,
But
was that true?
that never happened.
Oh, it never happened?
Never happened. Oh, I don't. Seriously, hey,
That was everywhere.
He's going to another club, and I just said, okay, thank you, and that was it. We didn't have to. What are you doing on the weekend? And some managers that is the case. You deal with them directly about business, and then some of them, because I've been in the game a long period of time, and some of those managers, and we go away from Isaac and them, like the Gavin Orr and so on. He's been around for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
Chimes and all that. They've been around forever in the day, and so
Sammy
yeah.
So talking to him a bit lately.
Got those managers.
Is it maybe then a fan overreaction, or potentially clubs passing the buck? Is that the issue here when it comes to player agents?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it's overblown to an extent, the amount of control agents have in the game. I mean, they do have a lot of control, right, because they manage players and big names, but ultimately clubs can just say no.
You can. And look, I have, I've hung up on a few, and I have a period where I don't talk to one and whatever, and they come back and their friends are going. But, you got to stick up for your own patch as clubs as well. And I get, that we want the best deal, and they do, but you just want to work together, as I said. It's not easy.
Has it ever impacted either of you two, your relationship with the client, the player, because of what a player agent's saying on the client's behalf?
Not that I can think of, James. I think sometimes, we have some jokes with players that, your manager's been hard to deal with. I can't get a deal done. And then the player's going back to his agent saying, Flano said you've been hard to get along with and all that sort of stuff. But that's just sort of me, trying to get a deal done here and there. But, not that I can remember that the relationship with a player has fallen over because of the manager. If we didn't have managers in the game, we just need them. Like, what is the alternative? Players need someone to guide them in that. You mightn't, Woodsy mightn't, the next player does. That needs some help in that area. Otherwise, the Messies of the world are going to be able to
the clubs dominate. Have to spend their salary cap. Like, you're obligated to spend this 95% of the cap. So you've still got to spend it. So it's going to go to the players.
Yep.
It ultimately does. The question that do agents need a registration fee, Rudy? Doesn't it need it because they make a fair bit out of the game?
Do they pay one? I thought
no,
they paid
don't.
one. They don't. Okay.
Not that I know of any because I don't think they do. No.
Yeah.
Well, interesting.
So
they earn a lot out of the game.
They do. Yeah. But some of them work really hard for that money.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And some of them do a really good job. And as I said,
I understand that, Ricky. I understand
that. The majority do a really good job for their clients.
Maybe if the clubs were fairer and more transparent and just said, look, this is what we're prepared to offer you. It's not a negotiation. It's just, here's your value. You can use a player agent or you can't.
But that's not, Jimmy, that's not realistic. Come on, man. Yeah. But it's like you're saying, so you're saying to a player, just say, let's use as an example, Gutho. We're only going to pay you 600 grand. He's just going to go to another club. And the other club will pay more. Yeah, and then you cost yourself a good player.
But if you can only afford 600, you can only afford 600.
But you can always afford a bit more, Jim.
James said, no, that happens. That happens. All it does at our club that, this is what, it's really not negotiable. This is what we've got. Take it or leave it. We're not going to go through the negotiation period. Some other players, it's going to be a long negotiation period. We understand that, because there's probably other clubs interested. But, Rudy, this is your contract offer. Take it or leave it.
And that's one thing. And Flanagan's 100% right at Manly, like the salary cap, to get it in some kind of order. And it's about, we had some really good value from quite a number of players this year, and because that was the money we had to spend. And sometimes you just got to say, hey, that's it. And the player wants to stay. And, if he does go, well, then down the back end of his contract, you will increase it and give him the money that he needs.
It's been said, it's almost impossible to do a good deal, right? Because if you've got a player that you sign and this particular player's on $500,000, but he's playing like a 750, the agent's going to go and try and get that deal for 750 and almost aggravate other clubs to say, oh, we'll take him early.
That's right. And that's the part of it which I reckon the clubs do get upset, is the aggravation to get a player out. I think that's a point where it can improve. Hasn't happened in my time, but it happens at other clubs where the agent agitates to and we've been offered players from other clubs that they might have only had a year to go or what have you, and the agent agitates to get them out.
But that comes down to the strength of your club. When Josh Adokar signed with the Bulldogs, Melbourne held on to him and he stayed and he played that from memory a year out at Melbourne. And the strong clubs are able to, the good clubs, the strong clubs, the players, they might agitate to leave, the agent might agitate to leave, but they just say, no, you're not going anywhere. And generally the player plays the season out, plays well.
I understand that, but what I'm saying, it hasn't happened in our club, but it does happen. So,
of course, yeah.
And that's why the fans are saying, well, the agents have got too much power, and that's where it comes from.
There's many of those players that you talk about, James, that are probably overperformed and their salary is down. You get exactly as many players that are overpaid and not performing, so it works itself out. Yeah. I didn't look at you.
I guess so. It again, should more clubs, should the blame of this go to the clubs? Because a club's got to make an offer or indicate to the agent that they're willing to pay more than what the players currently on at his parent club.
Well, look, the clubs have to take responsibility. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't and they blame everyone else. Look, you're in control. You really are. As much as you say, and I don't say we're controlled by any agent or any agents. We're not. And the club is in full control. We've in my time, we've kept everyone that we wanted to keep, right? And maybe there's a few that you go, young, like, geez, I wouldn't, don't want to let him go, but it's like money-wise, we couldn't. We just possibly couldn't. So that's like a Jamie Humphries and, going to South and so on. There's some players you like to keep. You can't keep them all. But from a business perspective.
But isn't that like Gutherson at the moment? Like he's on, nearly $900 million, but the Parramatta want to move him on to free up cap space. How is that the manager's problem? He's gone out and gave him a great deal.
Well,
I don't think that was, to be fair to Guthrie.
And there's a lot of speculation.
I don't think they want to necessarily move him on.
No, but you never spoke about this.
He's got a year to go on his deal. He's a November 1 guy, and they're not sure whether they want to offer him an extension beyond his current deal.
But my other thing was we spoke about managers leaking stuff. Well, there's a lot of stuff coming out about Gutho now. Is that coming from Parramatta? Because I don't think Sammy A would want that to be leaked out.
Look,
So it works vice versa.
It does, yeah. Some of the clubs are helpful with information as much as any agent
But
is.
it sells better when it's the manager that's leaking stuff out.
Well, it's easier to blame the agents, isn't it?
Well, did you always feel it be necessary to have someone looking after you in your best interests?
Yeah, definitely. I have no idea what to do with a contract. Have you seen how big they are?
How many pages was he?
No, honestly, there was that many
There's
on
all
it.
sorts of...
Yeah. A lot of players don't look at what they get with the income. Like there's, I think when I first come in, I think the first was like the health care. You used to be able to get that on your contract.
Well, it's covered now. Everyone's covered in the game. There's a 5K allowance for every player.
Your uni studies, your allowance, all that sort of stuff. It's not just the money they give you in your pocket, it's the things you can get as well. But then, like I've had Isaac since I was 15, very strict on what we did with our money outside of footy, where you put your money, what you do with it, budgets, allowances that he gives you. He was always very good with what I did, and that's my dealings with him. And I've always got that much respect because he was harsh, but it's fair. And then now, where I'm at my career, I've retired. I've got things behind me which I'm not rattled moving into retirement.
Also, so he sort of set up a total package for you. It's not just, I'm going to negotiate you a deal. It's
we sit down and
provide you like
we sit down and go, it's not just rugby league.
Yeah.
Like he wants to make you a better person off the field, make you, a better family man, so you got stuff to cover when you do retire. You've got things in place, plans in place, not just as in money-wise, but helping you outside, getting jobs, there's a lot of other things as well.
That's what the good agents do, right there, Jimmy. I mean, we all hear these horror stories of players who finish their career and they've got nothing to show for it. I think the good agents try to help you, and they can only do so much for you, right? They can't be with you 24 hours a day. But the good agents try to make sure that when your career is over, you're set up for life after footy.
I think it's the thing I did with Isaac at the end of each year, because you be around a manager when you sit down and have a meeting or coffee with them, their phone just goes ballistic. So we used to, at the end of each season, we'd sit down, phones would be off, we'd just talk about a plan. Especially the last probably 4 or 5 years, we really, knuckled down and said, what are we going to do? What does it look like when footy's over? Have our plans in place? What have we done with our money? All these sort of things. And he's just brutally honest, about footy as well, how we perform, which areas we can get better in. So for me, he was awesome. And I know he's done that with a lot of his clients, speaking to other players that have got him as well.
And he'd negotiate third-party deals for you, but also and these jobs that you have at post-football.
Outside, well, not all of them. I can do some myself, but I get a little bit of help. And when if I've got a contract I've got to look over, he'll oversee it for me because I've got, like I said, I'm not too sure on all the, the dots the I's and cross the T's.
Flanagan, you as a coach, do you feel like you absolutely need him?
Does he help you too?
Really interesting question. Sometimes you need one. I look at, I was coming back into the game, so I probably needed one to renegotiate your deal at your current club. Like, I don't think you need one.
Yeah.
You have that relationship, like if I was at Manly and I was talking to Mezzy and we're going to extend or whatever, do I need a manager? Excuse me. I probably would say I don't, but I have got one. And just gives me that little bit of sense of security and, when the time is right, he'll chase my next deal or whatever it needs to be. But I always look at it and think, I control that.
Yeah.
How many games we win. So it's a tricky one. When I don't need the bit the Woodsy was talking about, probably a little bit older and, I don't need my life to be set up after football.
Yeah.
I'm in this phase for probably a while. So, but, once again, you spoke about Isaac. I think the work he does and we just mentioned a few names before. I think they all do that these days, at different levels. They might go, well, James doesn't like me talking about life after footy. I'm going to leave him alone. But Aaron, I'm going to talk to him about that. He needs that. So they treat everyone a little bit different. And I think, the crew that we've got at the moment, whilst we like to bag them, they also do a really good job.
What do you make of it when clubs fall out with agents, like the Nick Politis, Isaac Moses story with Joseph Suolihi springs to mind, really. What did you make of all this?
What do I make of it? I don't know. That just happens, right? Occasionally that happens now around. The Roosters aren't the only club to fall out with an agent. Other clubs have fallen out with agents and put bars on agents. I mean, I have a couple of clubs who've got or don't have players from certain agents because they've fallen out with them or don't trust them over the years. I think that's commonplace. But eventually, those
really, you think?
Yeah, I think it happens at a few clubs. I think that's a high profile one because Joe was a big story. Nick's huge, right? Nick's a big figure in our game. Isaac's a big figure in our game. So that was pretty public. But I know of other clubs that they mightn't necessarily deliberately freeze out clients from certain agents, but they just don't have any from certain agents, and they're happy that way. They're happy they don't have them. So yeah, that one's a big deal's made of that one. But I think that's more commonplace than you think it is in our game. Yeah. And I think eventually, you know what? At some point down the track,
you don't need each other.
Exactly. And when that
Joseph wants to come back.
Exactly.
But agents can't afford to fall out with clubs. They need to trade.
Vice versa.
Yeah,
I know that, but I don't necessarily know. There's plenty of players out there, to be honest. So agents need the clubs as well, really. And look, I haven't, I'm not falling out with any agent at the moment, but I've had my moments with.
Give it time, Messi.
No. I've had my moments. I have, fallen out with a couple.
But what?
Just over the way the business was done from my perspective. Didn't agree with it. So you can do that. You can do it because you're the boss of the club. I don't like to do it, but I mightn't speak. I don't. So I'm going to blank you. I just don't speak to them for a period. The head of recruitment might speak to them, but I don't, and I'm actually involved only at the kind of the top level of the players. You can because you obviously what's best. Interest for your club. It's not all plain sailing, I must admit, I'll be in the wrong sometimes or the agent will be, but like Flano said, I think the players now do the money at stake and the money that's in the game, they do need agents. There's 100%. There's a need for agents.
Are you talking about being blindsided by a counter offer or what? I'm trying to understand how a club and an agent have the fallout and what what's the level of what's the causation?
I think of a lot of it's media chat as well. If they chat to the media, that's a big one. Leaking and they go, I didn't leak, and they have. That really annoys me. That's my main annoyance, I reckon. I don't leak against them, particularly against an agent. So I think, they've obviously trading information to journos and I get it, but that's my main, gripe, I'd say. But other than that, I get on with all of them.
Mm. All right, well, we'll go around the table and get our final thoughts. One of the things I was going to say about, the separation of player and coach in terms of being managed by the same person, I think it sounds great in theory, but we know it wouldn't work like that. They just have someone else acting on their behalf.
Oh, they will. They definitely will. Yeah, they definitely will. And how it's managed. So
spot on.
It'll look good, but we know it will still.
It'll never happen.
Yeah, it'll never happen. Tony, just final thoughts on what we can do to improve in this space.
I just think the accreditation scheme needs to be tightened up a little bit from my point of view, and there's a working group at the moment which I'm part of, so that's what I'd like to see in the game.
Flanagan?
Oh, look, I'm happy. I don't know, people say, sucking up to the managers. But
you are looking for favours, Flanagan. Come on.
But I just think, the job they do for the players I have more blues with them than anyone, because I don't get my way. But what they do for the players about setting up their lives and, they're looking after managing their careers, I think is crucial. And there's the good ones that have been in the game for a long period of time do that consistently. And I think we need it.
Woodsy?
I think we're talking about the November 1 thing before. I want to see that scrapped because it's just, you hear it, you read it, the managers get excited this time of year, and then the players got to play for another year. I just hate that. And, whether it's just June 30 up to then or whatever, I just want them to come up with a system in place because there's nothing worse than when you hear someone like this time last year, I think it was Jerome Luai. He signed a 4 or 5 year deal with the Tigers. And there was talk that, he could leave early or he might not leave. But he ended up staying because, like Reddy said, the good clubs keep them. They make them see out the full final year and then move on. I'd just like to see, I don't know how they're going to come up with it, but just want to see the players sign sort of a year before that. Like, say, if he's going next year, you just sign now.
I'm with look, I think they're a part of the game like journos are, like coaches are, like players are, like CEOs are. I think, and most of them do a really good job. Most of them are really do a good job for their clients. And ultimately, Jimmy, that's what people got to remember. Their priority is to their client. It's not to the club. It's not to me. It's not to Flano. It's to blokes like Woodsy, and to make sure that when they finish their career, they're in a good spot. And I think most of them do a really good job of that. And I think the agent issue is overblown.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. When you dig deeper, and Mezzy would be across a fair bit, is the age that a manager can sign a player. If you go to schoolboy carnivals and all that sort of stuff.
Is it 15?
It's 15.
Yeah.
What do you reckon it should be? 18?
I think it should be 18. I think that's part of it. We talk about agents and the issue. That's another thing that I'd like to see it at 18. I really would.
See, I reckon maybe it should be maybe rather than 18, 17, because they can play first grade at 18, can't they, Messi?
Yeah,
so
they can.
Maybe they should be set. Maybe you can make it 17, so that at least then you get them the year. Maybe they start their first grade.
But then they're just going to talk to them and have them.
Well, I know. You're just going to drive it underground. Then that's the flip side.
They'll always find a way.
Yeah, which is what you don't want to do.
Kids have got potential at 15.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's sounding some big deal.
Yeah, that's
and I guess at that age, it really is all new. Like you don't know what you're worth, and
but it's really
don't know
around the 17. You look at that young Macassini sign the other day. He's just 17. Next year I think he turns 18 and early next year. I think that's the age when they start to 17 is sort of the age when things start to get really serious, I reckon.
Sorry, just quickly, did they ever start to pitch about what a position a player could play when they come to the negotiating table? Because obviously we talk about fullback money.
Oh, without a doubt, mate. If you go back at my time at the Sharks, Valentine Holmes, they wanted fullback money for Val. He was on the wing, and he went back and played fullback for a little bit, and then re-signed him on fullback money, and realised he was probably still a winger or a left centre, and then he went to the US on his NFL journey. But without a doubt, some people, managers and players, it's player driven as well. That they might think that they're a fullback or a halfback or a side later, rather than the centre wing bit, because the bit, I think the game, and I think it's gone definitely changed that, what's a goal kicking winger worth, or just a winger, or what's his speed? I think he can really put a price tag. The smart ones will put what's he going to be worth for us, and also, what one of Mezzy's players is worth to Mezzy could be completely different to me. I need speed, or I need a goal kicker, so once again, what's the value to Mezzy's Manly side compared to me could be a little bit different. So, but positional wise, definitely.
Flana, I want to summarise this episode with a word that you used, or a couple of words: necessary evil. Player agents.